My Lords, the Noble Lord Wolfson referred to his childhood when I was his family's constituency member of Parliament in Liverpool. And the Noble Baroness Lady Chapman, in replying to the debate, referred to something which deeply affected me during my time, of course, as a Member of Parliament. I never expected to have to visit families whose children had died at a football match, as they had done at Hillsborough. So I have been enormously grateful to the effect that the European Convention has had in helping to shift the law, and indeed to the government for the commitment that it gave at the general election to enact the so-called Hillsborough law. It's an issue which the Joint Committee on Human Rights has engaged with, and indeed we recently published correspondence between the committee and the government on the duty of candour. It's a good example, I think, of how events which take place here in our own jurisdiction but have implications elsewhere, how they can be affected jurisdiction to jurisdiction, person to person. Some very kind words have been said by noble lords in making their remarks today, not least about my longevity. I'm grateful to the noble Lord Wolfson, but also to the noble Lord Rooke, who said he hoped one day to grow up, he said, to be like me. I don't wish that on him, or indeed on anybody else, but I feel a bit like Methuselah at the end of today's debate. My lords, the noble Lord Griffiths of Bury Port, for whom I have great fondness and admiration, made a very good speech about why we should keep our feet firmly on the ground and never lose sight of the human impact of the decisions that we make. He told us that he'd been to the Supreme Court and he felt as though he'd been surrounded by stars in the galaxy. Well, you don't have to go all the way to the Supreme Court to feel as though you're surrounded by stars in the galaxy, and I would like to pay particular tribute to some of the very distinguished and celebrated peers who have spoken in today's debate. These have been wise voices, and my lords, I think we would be foolish not to study carefully what has been said to us from all sides of the argument. This is a debate that's been worthy of the anniversary, but also worthy, I think, of your lordship's house. Reference, and I'm not going to obviously try to respond to all the speeches, I'll be brief, but reference has been made to Article 3. And my noble friend Lord Carter was right, but of course even if you didn't have the ECHR, the 1951 Convention on the Treatment of Refugees would still be in place. We have also been cautioned by the noble Lord Balfe, by my noble friend Baroness Ludford and others, about the dangers of building a whole argument on one or two cases, and the so-called chicken nuggets case has been referred to. Go away and read Joshua Rosenberg's article this week, where he reminds us that a lower-tier tribunal got it wrong and an upper-tier tribunal got it right, and that this will not, he says, prevent the deportation of someone who may be here illegally and therefore should not be resident in the United Kingdom. So let's not build a case for the total deconstruction on cases like that. It was again a noble lord who reminded us, I think it was my noble friend Lord Hannay, who said that hard cases make bad law. My lords, when you start to unravel and disrupt, it carries consequences. But that isn't an argument against reform, and I take the arguments that have been made from particularly Conservative benches today, that this isn't a static instrument, it's not incapable of reform, and things like the Swiss case are things for the Joint Committee on Human Rights to go back and look at and to take evidence over, and I hope that the noble Lord Murray and I will agree about that and find ways for us to look at that kind of judgment, and whether or not we're going too far in some circumstances. But, my lords, it should not become an argument for the destruction of the Convention on Human Rights, confronted by, in our own generation, by a new breed of dictators who again threaten the foundations of democracy. It would be sheer defeatism and an act of vandalism to abandon the legacy which has been entrusted to us. So I'd like to renew my thanks to everyone who's participated in today's debate, and in closing this crossbench debate, marking the 75th anniversary of the European Convention of Human Rights, thank all those who have made such excellent contributions in your lordship's house. Yeah.